Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to explain you about TestNG. So what is TestNG? We are going to do test automation using Java language. We'll be writing a few lines of code using Java and we'll be executing it. That will be performing the expected action in the web application and will give us some results. And we usually execute our Java code through different methods and we will call it under main method. But in the real time, as a part of any testing, especially the special type of testing like integration testing, we will be having n number of test cases. I mean, we will be having multiple test shoots and every shoots will have multiple test cases. And the requirement will be to execute selective cases or all number of cases whenever there is a change in the application. So we can't execute all the methods under main method. Suppose I have around 10 methods to test 10 cases and suddenly the requirement changes or the scope changes where I have to execute another 50 test cases. So I can't have a main method and I can comment my previous 10 methods and I can call other 50 methods. That is really not possible. And moreover, while we are doing testing, we manually do some preconditions and we will be checking some checkpoints and sometimes the similar cases will be executed for different types of data. There will be so many use cases. So we need some approach to do the testing using Java. TestNG is a testing framework designed to simplify about range of testing needs. So we can use this TestNG. It's actually a Java library. We can use this for unit testing, integration testing, and this will be helpful for us to execute the test cases in the desired fashion. So in simple way, we can say this is a library or framework which will be helping us to do test execution. We can also call it as test orchestrator during the execution. So in most of the places, even if you go to interview, there is a popular question, when to use TestNG or why we need to go with TestNG? Why not JUnit? So JUnit is nothing but a similar library. We will call it as Java unit testing library. So whenever they are writing some code, some piece of code for the application, developers will be performing the unit testing for the block of code that they will be using this JUnit library. So this is as well driven with some annotations to denote the test cases. But coming to TestNG, there are so many additional features available. This is not just to mean for unit testing. We can do different types of testing, especially integration testing. And we have so much control over here because we additionally have multiple annotations. So annotations here, the driven parameters to do the execution. We will see in the upcoming slides what are all those annotations means. So we have more annotations with respect to TestNG. So TestNG is a very popular testing framework. Earlier we were using TestNG, but nowadays we started using Cucumber, and TestNG is still popular for data-driven testing. So this is going to be helpful for us to execute the test cases. Why we need TestNG? In the real time, we will be having a number of test cases. Sometimes we will be having test data written in some file format. It can be of any file like XML or XLS or other custom file types. Nowadays, we are using JSON file format as well. And at the end of every testing, we need a test report as well. Additionally, we have to maintain the logs. If some cases failed, we have to understand why that cases failed so that we can fix and execute it. So we need a detailed report like number of cases passed, failed, and the reason for failure in the log as well. So this library gives all those features. This is highly supporting data-driven test cases. So we can have multiple test cases and can be executed in the desired fashion. Like this case should be executed first, after that this case. Like that we can even give the sequence of the execution. We'll get a good report with the hierarchy as well as the summary status and the detailed status. Additionally, we can configure logs as well using TestNG. So this is specifically created for automation testing purpose and can be used with either REST Azure automation, or we can use with Selenium automation as well. And how to do this setup? This is going to be a library, right? So we need to do some setup in our Eclipse as well as in the project. So the first one is installing TestNG plugin for Eclipse. We are using Eclipse IDE for our test case development. We are writing code in that Eclipse IDE by creating Java classes. But here, TestNG is a library. To invoke that TestNG library from Eclipse, we need a plugin. So I'll go to that Eclipse. Eclipse supports so many number of plugins, and here especially we will be using few plugins for Cucumber as well as the TestNG. So how to install a plugin in Eclipse IDE? We have to go to the help and we have to go to the marketplace, which is Eclipse marketplace. And once we click it, will take some time to load and it will be displaying few plugins. So plugins will make our life easier. It will be performing actions for us or will be giving suggestions for us. As you know, Maven plugin is by default installed in Eclipse, but the other plugins we need to install it. So I'm going to search with TestNG. If you just search, it will come with TestNG plugin for Eclipse IDE. So here for me, it's grayed out. It's showing like installed, but for you, it will be like this install button. And if you click this install button, it will be showing you some pop-up. And if you click confirm, it will take you to the page where you may need to accept the license agreement. Post that, it will ask you whether you want to install it or not. Some confirmation it will ask. Then it will download the required plugin jar files and it will be installing it. After installing, it will ask you to restart the Eclipse IDE to take the effort. So it will show you a pop-up. I'll stop this. I was just showing you to know how the process will be. I am not going to install this more unit. So once you restarted, your plugin will be available. You can again go to the same marketplace. You can go to this installed tab. There you will be able to see plugin. I have so many plugins. So this is the plugin TestNG for Eclipse. Here you will be able to see it. This is the first step. So the second step is adding TestNG libraries to project build path. So here we can use either Java project or Maven project. But in the real time, we will be mostly using Maven project for Selenium testing. So in Maven project, to add any external libraries, we will be using form.xml. Example, this is an empty project where I just added Selenium library as a dependency. Now here I'm going to add TestNG libraries. So I will have to go to browser, type TestNG main event dependency. So if I search, it will give me the first link where I'll be able to see all the versions of TestNG. We can take any latest version available and can copy the dependency and go to Eclipse and paste it inside the dependencies tag. So once I click the save button, it will be automatically added with my project. This is the second step. And the third step will be, if you want, you can open this Maven dependency, scroll and verify at the end whether there is a TestNG jar file is added or not. And the third one will be creating or generating TestNG XML. So here, you know what we are going to do. We will be just having an XML similar to pom.xml. Pom.xml, what we are doing, we are just mentioning what all the dependencies we want. So it will automatically go and download it. Similarly, in TestNG XML, we are just mentioning what all the test cases to execute. It will go and execute. So it's a similar like, main method in Java. Whatever we are mentioning in this XML, it will be executed, but it will be very simple way. We'll see that. Before going and seeing that how to create an XML or how to create a test case, there are some terminologies they are using it. So I want to make you clarify that. They are calling something like suite. Suite is nothing but, group of test cases. We will usually call it as test suite, but here in that XML, we will be having that as a suite. So for every test suite, we can have one XML file. That is a good practice. And the next level will be inside a test suites, we can have test execution. You know, we will be writing test cases in a Java class. Maybe every class will have multiple test cases as methods. And we can call one or many classes under this execution. This is theoretically, I'm just telling. Maybe while creating it, you will understand. Similarly, we can have classes, multiple classes under test execution. There is a tag called class. And every test case will be having the annotation at the rate test. So let's see what we are doing. Traditionally, if I want to execute any test case, I'll be creating some package. So example is going to be test suite one. This is the package name. Inside the test suite one, we will be having multiple modules. Example, module one. Module one can have say 5 cases or few cases. Similarly, there will be module two as well. I'm just creating the skeleton. Okay. Then inside which we can have test cases. So I'm going to module one. Let me create some cases. Public void test 001. So assume this is a test case. I ideally have to write my Selenium code, but for now I'm just going to print something. I am executing test case 001 like this. Assume we have 3 cases in this module, 001, 002, and 003. I'm just changing it. Similarly, in the another module, which is module 2, I'll be having 3 more cases. So I'll zoom in and paste it. This is how a test suite will looks like. There can be n number of modules and we will be having n number of cases inside that module. So these are all like, cases related to the same functionality. And these are all related to the same functionality under this module. So traditionally, if you want to execute this test case, you will be creating a main method and you will have to call these methods here. something like this. Maybe you have to create an object and call it, or if it is static method, you can directly call it. But in the real time, there will be n number of test cases. We can't call it everywhere. And at a time, only one method we can have. We can't execute a classes. Sorry, I mean we can't execute all the cases under one main method. Else it will be very lengthy. So just to avoid this, we are going to mention this as a test case. How my TestNG will understand this method as a test case means we have to provide annotation. What is annotation? Annotation is a kind of keyword, I would say, or it's a kind of notation or mark which will make my library to understand this is belonging to test case. So it is starting with the at the rate symbol and you have to type it as test. If I type at the rate test before every method, then my TestNG library will understand this is a test case. So I'm just pasting this annotation before every test case. It's showing error. So for the first time, you have to add the library. You have to click this add TestNG library. And additionally, you have to import this annotation from testng.annotation. These two steps are important. Once you have done that, you are able to see some options here. Run, debug, run all. These are all kind of hyperlink. This is giving us various levels of execution options. What I mean, like example, I just want to execute this single test case means I can mouse over and click this. So it will be asking me to save this. Once it is clicked, I'm clicking this and it will automatically execute that single test case. So in the console, you are able to see it is executing test 001 and it's printing that. And it's giving a summary view. One test case executed, one test case passed like this. So I have to import this annotation here as well. Let me import it. Suppose I have a requirement to execute all the test cases from same module. Then you can click something like this, run all. Now this will execute all the three cases, 1, 2, 3, and all three are passed. I'm seeing the output in the console because in the test case, I am just having my print statements. This is how I am denoting any method as a test case using TestNG. But the requirement is, sometimes I have to execute all the test cases, which I mean, I have to execute all the cases from module 1 and module 2. Now I can't click this run all and this run all. It's not possible. Another way of executing is we can right click. There is option run as Java application. Similarly, when I have at the rate test annotation in this file, it is showing option called run as TestNG test. So this option will come only if we install that plugin, which I was telling you earlier. For this purpose only, we are installing this TestNG plugin first in our Eclipse. This is another way of executing it. But anyway, my requirement is to execute multiple modules at a time. So I'm going to have the file called testng.xml. This is going to be like, I'm writing in a paper what all the test cases to execute. It will refer and execute it. How to create it? So now I want to execute for these modules means I'm selecting these files, right clicking. There will be an option called TestNG. So under this, create TestNG class. Sorry, I think it's not create TestNG class, convert to TestNG. So if I click this, it will be showing me a pop-up called refactoring. It will generate the TestNG XML file. By default, it will generate in the project path. And if I want, I can name the suite as well as the test execution. Say this is going to be test suite 1, test suite 1, and the name of the test case will be sanity execution or whatever we want we can give. Okay, and my rest of the options we just can leave it as is. This name also by default, default name will be there. If you want, we can edit it. And if I click this finish button, it will automatically generate one XML for us. What is that XML means? So it will import, I mean, it will give the annotations again. We can remove it if you don't want. So this is the XML. It is creating a sanity test execution using test suite 1. And this is the XML header, leave about it. And this is having one suite. And under one suite, I'm going to execute two class files. So under classes, I can have n number of class files. So this is the package name and this is the class name. It is auto generating it, but suppose if you want to edit it later, maybe we can understand using this. So that's all. This is similarly package name as well as another module name. If you have this XML file, I can right click on this file or I can right click here and use the option run as TestNG shoot. Now this file will help me to execute all the 6 cases from 2 different class files. And we will be having multiple options here in this XML file. Suppose I don't want to execute this class out of these 2 classes, or inside this class itself, I don't want to execute few methods. So in that case, we will be having the options called in methods. So which are the methods to execute in this specific class? I can either do include or exclude. This all will come in the suggestion automatically when you just start typing the bracket. So now I can add the actions like from module 1, just to include the test case 001. So what is the name of the test case 001? Test 001. Okay. I can copy like this. Similarly, if I want, I can. So we have to add a close method, which is open bracket slash class. Similarly, for this class, again, we can use methods keyword and I can define the methods to include or exclude. In the top, I included one method out of 3. Here, maybe out of 3, I'm going to exclude one method. So it is already giving in the suggestion which one to exclude. Maybe I can exclude the third test case from the exclude SK003. Let me type it again. Or it will come in the suggestion while we are typing the tag itself. Test 003. And I have to end the tag with the slash class. So this is how I can customize the XML as well, like including, excluding few test cases. Now, if I save this and execute it, out of 6 cases, only one case from the module 1 and the remaining 2 cases by excluding one case in the module 2. So total of 3 cases only executed. And in the bottom, other than console, there will be another tab which is showing that name of the method, time taken to execute, and the status of the execution. If suppose there are some failures, it will show the reason for failure here. So this is a quick overview, like, how to execute a test case. But in the real time, we'll be having some preconditions, some post conditions. And to have some reusability, every time we can't write entire script using automation. Login, we will write it once. Logout, we will write it once. But we will use that login and logout method in every test case. Like that, we'll be having some conditions, right? That conditions also we can handle using TestNG annotations. So till now we just have seen what is at the rate test. Now I'm going to show you what are all the other annotations available. So here, uh, in the previous slide, I was explaining what is a test suite or what is a test case. What is class and methods. We created two classes and inside which three methods, which we denoted as a test case. Now we have complete control over the execution using these annotations. Suppose I want to execute some of the methods before every test case, or some of the method before every class or shoot. At multiple levels, we can have execute a specific method either before or after the test case, or a class level or a suite level, in whatever way we want. So these are the other annotations available. This is exactly like, we just need to have some methods here. Like I created test cases. I'll be having another method like public void before method. So here I have three method. Na? So I'm creating one, and let me just add a print statement. I'm executing before every method, like that. And if I want to execute this one line, or to print this one line before every test case, I mean here every method, so I will be using at the rate before method. So it will show in the suggestion. Let's see whether it is executing this before every method or not. Similarly, I can have something called after method as well. At the rate after method, I'll just change this to after. After. Now the expectation here is there are three methods: test one, two, three. Before test one, this to be executed. After test one, this to be executed. Similarly, before test two, before test three, after test two, and after test three, this line should be executed. Like that, we can have some pre and post conditions added in multiple levels: suite level, method level, test execution level. If you see here the print statement in the console, before every method, test case, after every method, before every method, test case, after every method. Like that, it is executing exactly as per the hierarchy. So I really want you to try out all these annotations. From the interview perspective, they will ask the order of execution of every annotation. Which one will be executed first, which one will be executed after that, that hierarchy. So it is exactly in this hierarchy only, suite, test, class, method, test. Then similarly after method, after class, after test, and after suite. So please try this. Similarly, there is one more annotation. I missed it here, which is called group. TestNG is giving me to create groups of test cases and can execute the specific groups as well. We are already splitting in the class wise, which we are calling it as a module, and we are having suite with multiple classes. So sometimes if you want a group of cases from multiple modules or multiple packages, we can have the group option as well. So please explore this. When we have the groups mentioned in the test case, we will be having this annotation also working. You might have a question how to mention these groups. So if you open this and there will be suggestion, and we have to open a curly braces before group and after groups are available. I will add a space. Group equal to maybe sanity, and we can close this. I think I missed something to import. Let me have this bracket. Now I will give control space. It is giving me all the suggestion. The name alone we have to give it in curly braces, not the attribute. So here if we start typing groups, this groups is accepting string array. Now here I can give the string array with the multiple groups names. Says this case is involved in smoke testing, comma, sanity testing. Like that I can give some input or a tag. So whenever I'm calling this smoke testing group, this case will be executed. You might have a question how to call a group from the testng.xml. That is very again simple. So if you have this test tag, if you open this, it will be giving me a groups option. Inside group, if you just again give the control space or the open braces, it will just ask for the run, which one to execute. And inside the run, I can just mention the include and name of the group, example smoke. So this is a simple way to execute a specific group under a test execution. So there are multiple options available. I just want you to explore this. Similarly, the other annotations also you can have just a dummy methods like I created, with a simple print statements, then execute and see what is the order of execution. That will help us to control our actual execution. So what else we can do using TestNG? TestNG is having something called data providers. We will be able to pass the test data to the TestNG test case. Earlier in the starting, I was telling TestNG is suitable for data-driven execution. Data-driven test execution meaning single test case will be executed for n number of test data. Example, let me have some test case with test data, or I will mention that public void test 004. Assume this is the test case, and to denote this as a test case, I have to mark at the rate test. This is clear. And now, I want to have some combination of test data to be passed to this test case. So in TestNG, there is something called data provider. If you just type and give control space, this annotation will come. So using this, I can pass a two-dimensional array of object to a test case. Data 001. Assume this is a data provider method. So here O should be capital Java object, and it should be returning a object array. Two-dimensional array. Why? Example, if you are having an Excel sheet, we'll be having rows and columns. So I can have a two-dimensional array of object. Why object here? Meaning any data I can pass. So it will be something like this, and I can return this data. Now let's have a 2 cross 2, two inputs with two test case. Means say my name is Vijay, and maybe username is Vijay, comma password is pass001. This is one test data. Similarly, let's have another test data. Username is Bharati, comma. See, don't worry about this structure. I'm just creating two-dimensional array. I mean, I'm declaring a two-dimensional array. Pass002. That's all. I think here I have to close this curly brace, sorry, double quote. Now this is a test case, assume login test case. And this test case need two inputs, two strings, maybe username, comma, string, password. Now I want to use this two test data to use with this fun method. So single method, but two different combinations of input. Now it is very simple for me. I can just mention data provider equal to, what is the name of the data provider? Data001. That's all. Now this code will be executed, or let me just add a print statement and I will show you what it is printing. So username and password. Now this one line should be executed twice and will be giving me this combinations. This is how the data driven testing works. Same code, same functionality will be tested for different combinations of data. Now, if I execute this test case alone, I think before method after method will be executed. But other than that, if you see the print statement, I'm executing before every method. Fine. Vijay and pass is coming first as a part of first execution. Then Bharati and pass002 is coming as a part of second execution, which means I never mentioned I have to execute this test case twice, but just because I'm using this test data 001 having two different combinations of input, TestNG is automatically executing the test case twice. This is a simple example of using TestNG data provider. In this way only we are using TestNG for data-driven testing. Similarly, I can give the parameters from testng.xml. What kind of parameters? You may have a question. Suppose I want to have my test cases to be executed in a specific browser. Say browser, browser, and the value equal to Chrome. And if I want to access this specific parameter in my test case, I can create, I can use this. The suggestion, I think it will come. I can use this parameter directly in the test case so that I can use it. This is a kind of environment parameter. From TestNG XML, we can pass to my test case. Data provider is different. That is for data-driven testing, which will be giving two-dimensional array of objects as a test input. But parameter is a kind of single input, which I am passing to my test case. That is one thing. Similarly, we can do parallel execution. This is very important feature of TestNG. You can ask me why we have to execute test cases parallelly. In the real time, during the testing phase, we might have so many number of test cases, but we will not get that much number of that many number of testers, or the time, that much time to execute or complete the test case. So the main goal of automation is to reduce the testing effort, reduce the time. In such a way, we can reduce the cost. So automation execution should be happening parallelly so that we can complete the testing as soon as possible and we can move the changes to the production. So we can perform parallel execution as well using TestNG.xml. Example here, I have two different classes. Let me delete this groups. Okay. Let me try to execute these classes parallelly. So here there is a keyword. I'll just add a space. If I start typing parallel, then here it is by default coming as false. If I give it as true, then it will start executing test cases parallelly. Sometimes if I want to give specific conditions, like I want to execute classes in parallel, or I want to execute methods in parallel. If I want to give like that, you can give that as well. Here I am going to give classes equal to parallel, which means this is first case executed from one class. At the same time, the other two cases will be executed from other class. Let's see how it works. I'll save this, run as TestNG suite. Total of three cases, but it should be executed parallelly. Maybe by seeing this hierarchy, you will be understanding. If not, in the console, using the print statement, you can understand. So before every method is printed once, test case 01 is executing twice, one from module 1 and one from module 2, which means parallelly it's executing. After that, only after method is executing, then test case 2 is executing. So this is how we can do parallel execution at multiple levels: class level or method level, test level. Or if I don't mention anything, or just to true, it will automatically take test case as well as execute in different threads. So it's nothing but, it executing in multiple threads parallelly. That thread count you can control using this. By default, it will be executed maximum of 5 threads. But if you want, you can increase it to any numbers. That depends on your machine capacity. At a time we can execute 10 test cases parallelly, means 10 browsers will open, 10 URLs will be launched, 10 different cases will be executed. That should not slow down your system. That is the only thing. There is no any restriction in the thread count. We can give like 20 or 30, whatever it is. It will do execute parallelly according to the way that we are declaring it. If you don't want, you can mention it as false. It will not execute it parallelly. This is one of the features. I'm just here giving the high level overview, but we have so many options available. I'll show you that from the documentation. Then it do generate test report. I will show that. Additionally, sometimes we'll have a requirement to work with multiple TestNG XMLs. Of course, we'll be having multiple test suits, right? So that time, let me copy and paste it with a new name, testng2.xml, like this. Both are having the same test case. But now, I want to execute both XML files. How we can execute both at a time? Ideally, it's not possible because I'm just right clicking on the XML file, run as TestNG suite I'm giving, but at a time I can't give for both. So we are using this with the Maven project. In Maven, there is something called Surefire plugin. This Surefire plugin will help us to execute an XML using Maven. We have added already the libraries. Now, I just want to have that plugin. This is a sample structure, how it looks like. Maybe I will show fire plugin Maven dependency. Let me try that, whether it's coming or not. Yeah, okay. It's coming as a dependency information, but I don't want this. I want to do for my TestNG XML. Maybe I can copy this example. I can rename the file. Let me copy this from plugin. So in my TestNG, I mean form.xml, just above all the dependencies, we can have a build tag. In the suggestion, it will come. And inside a build tag, let me give the structure for this. I'll zoom in a bit. We can have the plugins. We have plugin management. Both are possible. I'm just going to paste the plugins already because I already copy pasted it. This dot dot denotes we can add multiple plugins, but I just want to have single plugin now. This is older version, and I want any latest version means I can update here. So for plugin version, this website having older version, so I can go to this. This is the latest version, I think. We can use anything. Yeah, 3.0.0-M6. Okay, I think this is almost the latest version. So I just need to save this. Here where I'm giving the file path. By default, my testng file as well as pom file in the same path. So I just need to give the same, just name. I mean, no need of any path. But if suppose my testng XML is in different folder like src test resources or something, then I have to mention that path src slash test slash resources slash testng XML. So I have two different files now. I can save this. Now to execute this, I have to right click on the project and I can execute it as Maven test here. In this way, I can trigger more than one TestNG XML file using my Maven. So it is asking me to execute using JDK. So this is the error we usually get to execute using JDK. And I have to change it to JDK from the build path. It's showing like JRE11. I have to edit it. I have JDK 71. Okay, the 17 version I do have. Let me try with this. It usually work. Don't know what is this imported. Let me try again now. Run as Maven test. Two things we have to mention the compiler version sometimes in the POM XML, or sometimes we can directly use the JDK to execute it. If you see the output, now it is downloading all the required libraries related to the SUFA plugin. And then now it is executing the test case. It is executing the test case twice actually, exactly, because I copy pasted the POM XML. So 6 test cases executed. Now this we can understand by seeing the test report. There is a folder called test output. Here TestNG reports are generated. Or if you are using CFIR, in the target folder, there will be CFIR. Here also the similar report will be generated. Both are same reports. You can refer from test output. So the report which we want to refer is index.html. So this is how it will be. So one test suite, I think this is for, okay, this is for older execution. Now I executed using CFIR. So let me refer this CFIR reports index.html. It is showing two test suites. One is using testng2.xml. Another one is testng.xml. And this is the higher, chronological view. It is executing. And any methods ignored? Yes, there are methods ignored. One minute. And passed methods. Although details will be there. If something failed, we can see the failed methods. We don't have groups. We have only one test with the name sanity with the two classes. So all those things will be there in the report. There is one more report, emailable report, which will be showing the count as well as the time taken for execution and the test case name, whatever it is. Currently, we don't have any steps available. I'll tell how we can add the steps also. And we can add some pass fail as well for the test case. Because, in the testing, we will be doing check between the expected and actual test results to make pass or fail. That we'll see how to do that. There is something called TestNG listeners to listen the test case execution and perform the actions. One good example that I can say when we use listeners means it is checking for failures. Some test case fail means it will immediately stop the execution. But that time I have a requirement to take screenshot. Then in that case, you can use the TestNG listener. This will be kind of watching the TestNG execution and perform the action whenever the condition is met. Something like that. So you can try out this. And assertion and reporting. I was showing some report. I want to print something in the report means we have a reporter in TestNG. You can do configure as well. Then you can add any string in that report like reporter.log. I am executing test case 003. Like that, if you want to add something to the report, you can add it. This is one way of doing it. Like for this test case 002 and test case 001. And something called assertions. What are all assertions means? Assertion to make some decision on the test case status. What is testing means? It's nothing but the verification or validation of some actual result with some expected result. I know I might be expecting some output, but the application may be giving me some other output, which means my test case is failed. So such kind of comparison of two different results can be done using assertion. So here in the assertion, it will just check whether the given two inputs are same or not. If it is same, it will make the test cases pass. If it is not same, it will make the test cases fail. Maybe let's give a try. So it's called assert in TestNG. So we have so many options available to compare it. So let me compare some two Boolean inputs, true and false. You can compare anything here. There are so many options available in the suggestion. So I'm going to compare true with false. Now, if I execute this test case 001, it will fail because I'm trying to compare true with false, which is always fail. So this is just I thought of telling. Let me anyway execute the test case and let's see how it is reflecting in the report. I'm executing as Maven test. Two XMLs are executing. Totally, I think 6 cases are executing. And let's see the report. Report will be in the CO file, target folder, CO file reports. If you want, you can refresh this folder to see the latest report by right clicking refresh. I think it is already updated. Let me open the index.html first. So now if you see here, one test case from this module one is failed. Reason it is already showing expected is true, actual is false. So it is failed because I am passing it right in the session. Similarly here as well, it will fail. For the passed methods, the other two cases are passed. And chronological view, one test case failed, one test case passed. So here where I was telling, right, multiple annotations you can use. It will show the hierarchy of execution, like before method, then test 001 after method. If you use all annotation, it will show that hierarchy in this report. So you can understand which tag is executing when. That order you can understand. So these are all just an overview of TestNG, but there are more to explore. If you go to this, I'll show you the documentation. There are so many modules topics available. I almost explained or given overview of all the modules, like parameters, groups, as well as the how to execute or create it, annotations, how to execute it parallelly. Listeners I have not covered. And dependency, what it means, sometimes few cases to be executed, the other cases maybe depend on the cases. Like without logging into application, we can't go and order some product in the shopping, obviously. So login should be executed first and depend on login test case status. If login test case is passed, then next test case to be executed. Like that, we can have the dependent test cases. Similarly, we can have the priority of the test cases as well. And we can use logs also. There are options available. So please go through this documentation. This will be giving you a good idea. And so they have the detailed explanation along with some examples also available. So go through this. The main purpose of this video or aim of this video is just to give an overview what is a TestNG. So in a single word, if you want to answer, this is helping us with test execution. This is helping us to have a flexible way of executing it. We can have a reusability, we can have parallel execution. So data provider is available. Such things are not available in JUnit. That's why we are all using TestNG instead of JUnit. JUnit is just for a basic unit testing, but TestNG we can use it for our integration testing as well. We have frameworks using JUnit as well earlier, but nowadays all these features are now available in the Cucumber as well. We are mostly using Cucumber. But it's really good to know about JUnit, which is a basic one. Even in the interview, we will get more questions about JUnit still. So this is all I thought of sharing with you. If you have any questions, you can add it in comment or you can reach out to me. Thank you for watching this.